Hello everyone. My name is Johan Jaquet. I'm the Vice Director of Entrée de Jeu, but also member of the National Committee of PBI Switzerland. So I have two caps today. Today I'm gonna present PBI the game, which is a cooperative card game about the protection of human rights defenders. I'll start already with some context. The context of this project is the work of PBI. PBI is an international organization whose goal is mainly to protect, to support, and to raise and promote the recognition of human rights defenders who are working in many different countries. Currently, we have 8 different projects, mostly in Latin America, for 5 of them, but also in Indonesia, in Nepal, and in Kenya, where I was in 2018 as a volunteer. The main categories of activities, it's not always easy to present what PBI is about, so that's also why we created a game. We do unarmed protective accompaniment. I'll show some pictures after to illustrate what I'm talking about, as well as advocacy. Advocacy is mainly networking, making meetings with international organizations, United Nations, as well as local or national authorities, so that they recognize the work of human rights defenders and organizations. We also provide some room for capacity development so that human rights defenders can train, for example, on digital security or on psychosocial health, mostly within the network of human rights defenders. PBI is most of the time providing the links and the spaces for such encounters, but are not necessarily the experts. The fourth thing that PBI does is raising awareness about human rights in general, but also the work of human rights defenders, mostly in countries which have projects of PBI, but also in countries elsewhere, such as in Switzerland or the UK or France, etc., where we have so-called country groups, 14 of them. That's quite a lot. The goals of the present project are threefold, let's say. The first was to take the occasion of the 40th anniversary of the organization, which was founded in Canada in 1981. So this was a good occasion to do something different than usual, and to try to create a tool that would give a glimpse, that would give an overview of a pretty complex approach that PBI is using. The idea was to have an education and promotional tool to be used in various contexts, such as public events, such as today, but also school workshops, as well as in families, etc., because it's also standalone. It doesn't need someone to facilitate the sessions. To give you a little bit more information or illustration on the activities of PBI, you have on the upper left an example of physical accompaniment in kind of a remote area. We also work in cities, but in Colombia it's also in communities in remote areas where we accompany human rights defenders so that potential threateners see that the international community is watching. The second example is an Indonesian human rights defender providing a report to a UN representative to present the situation of his community. The third is simply a stand in Germany, where some local volunteers are raising awareness on the work of human rights defenders. And the fourth is about capacity development. This is a workshop, I don't even know on which subject, but where you can see that ideas, experiences, as well as skills are shared between human rights defenders. I'll move to what we did in this project is creating a game. First, we needed some resources, material and human resources. As you probably know, for realizing a project, you need funding. We did some fundraising to many, many different actors, including PBI Switzerland that also paid part of it. We needed some cardboard, machines, and ink, which was not very easy this year because of the COVID crisis. The cardboard shortage made the launch of the game be kind of stressful because we got the games like 3 days before the launch. We needed some expertise in the field provided by PBI Switzerland, in serious games provided by mostly myself, but also my colleagues, and also visual art expertise because a good game is also sometimes a beautiful game. The process shortly, because of course there are many sub-steps, we started with drafting the scenario and the general mechanics. Then we had to decide which content to put, and this is a very, it's a tricky, guys amongst you who create serious games know that we want to put everything, we want to put all the content, but if we put all the content, it becomes too complicated. So selecting is key. We also then moved to detailed game design, as well as testing, which is very important, to the graphic design, illustration, then production, along with translations, because it's an international game. So here we are, with a game that you would be able to discover at the booth, at the stand, so welcome. It's a cooperative card game from 2 to 6 players, from 10 years old, and with 2 different lengths, 30 minutes for the full version with the full gameplay, but also a 15 minutes extract from it, so that we can use it in events such as today. The goal within the game is, well, you are a PBI team and you want to win peace points, as many as possible, through completing typical activities of the field. So the idea was to reflect typical activities such as advocacy, protective accompaniment, etc., but also the principles of PBI, which are the following: international cooperation. It's an international NGO which, through its international aspect, protects human rights defenders even in very local environments, and the cooperative game is reflecting the cooperative aspect of the organization. Non-partisanship, so that means PBI does not take sides on LGBT rights compared, for example, to Amnesty International, who takes sides. In this case, we tend to not take sides on matters that are the expertise of human rights defenders on the field. We take side with protecting human rights defenders. Of course, indirectly, we take sides, but we try to stay non-partisan. The third aspect, which is pretty specific to PBI, is decision-making process that is consensus-based, and this is also the case in the game. We all have to agree what we do so that we can move forward. And the fourth is key to PBI's work, is that we only work with non-violent human rights defenders and organizations. Here you can see some examples of use. So you have a school workshop where actually someone is also providing more information about PBI, about Peace Brigade International. And we used it in several public events, such as here in Geneva. You can see some people also on the pictures, and some people are here who were on the picture. So this was a very nice example of using the short version and not only providing flyers and discussions, but also giving a glimpse of what PBI is doing on the field. And the third and fourth pictures are at the launch in Lausanne, where part of my family was present. This was very pleasant for me. So in conclusion, well, for your information, we created this game in 4 different languages, and we produced 400 copies, 100 in French, 100 in German, 100 in English, and 100 in Spanish, so that it could be also spread over the different country groups and projects. We observed that it seems to be a successful tool for introducing PBI's complex approach in various contexts, such as school workshops and public events. What we still need to figure out is whether it's useful for training volunteers, future volunteers who would go on the field, but also to be used as a standalone game within family or friends contexts. We mostly used it with someone to facilitate the game, but it should be able to be played by anybody reading the rules. I hope they are clear. And we also need some more feedback from outside Switzerland. It's a PBI Switzerland project, but we also hope to have it very international. In conclusion, our general need and perspective is promoting PBI the game more and, of course, PBI in general. So my final word is come to our stand upstairs and discover the card game with us. Finally, here are some credits and references. You'll see the links to different institutions or individuals who were involved in the project. Thank you very much to everyone present and to everyone not present for contributing to this project. And you can also see that there are some references, quite few. It's not very common to have references on human rights or NGO work in serious games. And finally, you have a book or other resources as well on the work of Peace Brigades International. So maybe there are some questions. I thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you. Are there questions? Yes.
Well, thank you so much for your talk. I was wondering, you did talk a lot about the effect and the need and the partners, but what about, I did not clearly understood the gameplay itself of the game. Do you want us to discover it, or can you talk about it a little bit?
Yes, thank you for the question. I was kind of expecting it. It's always difficult to present a board game or card game when you don't have the material in your hands. So that's why we have a demo stand. So I took this option of not taking many minutes to present the game, but I talked about the context. But the gameplay is basically you are a team of PBI volunteers and professionals on the field. Everyone has a character card everyone can do everything in terms of actions, but some have advantages in some areas and not in others. So then we tend to specialize a bit. Oh, you're very good in advocacy, so we'll send you to this task because you will be able to persuade whatever authority that human rights defenders are doing a great job. And you are very good to, let's say, give a very nice atmosphere in a group meeting. So come to the group meeting. It's very important for you to be here. And in terms of gameplay, it's represented by bonus points. So that's basically it. In terms of the general game mechanics, it's mostly optimizing the time you have, because you have too many tasks for the time you have. You have half days that you have to deal with. Basically, it's human resources management.
All right, thank you very much. Looking at the time, we're going to have to move on. If you have further questions, you are going to be around all day upstairs in the demo area. And tomorrow as well.
Thank you very much.